The predecessors of today's gigantic construction machines were well worth watching. As of now, they have a monumental status, but in their era, they were adopted as the most advanced solutions, and owning them was a thing of privilege. First up, we have a giant Alicecher HD41 bulldozer. Weighing in at 70 tons and built with 524 horsepower, the crawler tractor made headlines as the biggest machine of its era. Alicecher teased the future at the 1963 Chicago Roadshow with the introduction of the HD41 crawler tractor. This 70-ton, 524 horsepower beast made waves as the largest tractor ever built at that time. However, this was just a sneak peek. Alicecher wanted to ensure the Dozer would be a reliable performer and cut costs per cubic yard. Following its brief debut, a thorough development phase ensued, involving numerous prototypes tested in various conditions. It wasn't until 1970 that customers saw it go through full production. Speaking of its history, in 1938, Alicecher began crafting its diesel-powered tractors using General Motors engines. By 1940, they rolled out 3 models, the HD7, HD10, and HD14, to replace the older oil tractors. The HD14 was the largest and most powerful crawler tractor of its time, having 132 drawbar horsepower. It also became the first crawler to feature a torque converter with its 1945 upgrade. In 47, Alicecher set another world record with the 163 horsepower HD19, a 25-ton giant equipped with a Dozer blade. The HD41 featured a Cummins VT 1710C 4-cycle turbocharged diesel engine paired with a torque converter. Its power shift transmission offered 3 speeds in both forward and reverse, reaching up to 6.5 miles per hour. Optional attachments included bulldozer blades up to 20 feet wide in both semi-U and full U configurations, along with a cushioned push block for push-loading scrapers. Next up, presenting the timeless Cat D6. Debuting in the late 1930s, the D6 received an engine upgrade in the late 1940s. Although the D6 remains available today, newer models are labeled with suffixes like D6C. This model is authentic. Its counterpart, the D4, had an identical engine, except the D6 featured a 6-cylinder engine instead of a 4-cylinder. This was a high-speed engine, reaching 1200 RPM compared to the older Cat engine's 900 RPM. Early versions featured a horizontally opposed 2-cylinder gas engine atop the bell housing, known as the starting engine. It could be rope-started or started with a 6-volt electric starter. To start the main engine, you first cranked the pony engine, either manually or electrically, then engaged a pinion into the main engine flywheel and set a clutch to turn over the main engine. Once the main engine was turning, you opened its throttle, and, if all went well, it started, allowing you to shut down the starting engine. The starting engine did more than just crank the main engine. It shared a water jacket with the main engine, circulating water to the main engine head. The fuel filter system was also warmed by this water. The starting engine's exhaust was routed through the intake manifold to preheat the air for the diesel engine. These features enabled the Cat engine to run in harsh weather, but as diesel fuels improved and fewer places experienced severe cold, anything below freezing was tough for early diesel engines. Cat began offering direct electric start in later models. The starting engine was replaced by large batteries and an electric starting motor, providing the now familiar convenience of push-button starting. Moving on to the excellence of the 1964 Euclid TC12 Dozer. When companies launch something drastically different, they gamble big. The iconic Euclid TC12 Dozer, released in 1955, broke the mold for crawlers. Though it aimed to dethrone Caterpillar from its top spot, it didn't quite succeed. However, that doesn't mean that it was a failure. So Euclid expanded into earth-moving equipment in the 1920s and became a leader in the construction equipment industry. By the early 1950s, Euclid needed more funds and had aging leaders, so GM bought it. George Armington, in his 80s, oversaw the sale, and his son Ray managed the Euclid division of GM until 1960. Transporting the TC12 was difficult because it was much bigger and heavier than other crawlers at 30 to 35 tons without the blade. Euclid made it easier by designing the TC12 to split into 2 sections for transport. As larger equipment became more common, the TC12 fit in better. The first major upgrade came in 1958 with the TC12-2, increasing the engine's power to 227 horsepower each. By 1966, more upgrades led to the TC12 being renamed the 8280. In 1968, GM had to split up the successful Euclid division due to an antitrust suit. The truck division kept the Euclid name, while the crawlers and earth movers became part of the new Terex brand. Terex still exists today, but Euclid does not. The TC12, or 8280, remained in production until 1974, with a total of 901 units built of both types, about half and half divided between TC12 and 8280. By 74, simpler, single-engine dozers of equivalent or superior horsepower were on the market, and the disadvantages of the complex and aging TC12 or 8280 design made it difficult to market. The production of them continued until 1974, with 901 units built. Next on, the Oliver OC3 Crawler tractor featured a hydraulic front blade and rear box blade, despite the somewhat cumbersome arrangement of pipes and hoses. It ran on a Hercules gas engine, delivering 25 horsepower under optimal conditions. The Cleveland Tractor Company, founded in 1911 and rebranded later on as Cletrac, began producing bulldozers that could rival those from Caterpillar and Alicecher. It's powered by the aptly named Hercules engine. You can bet a tractor with an engine named after a legendary hero lives up to its name. This 2.2-litre 4-cylinder gasoline engine delivered 29 horsepower at 1700 RPM. Whether you needed to plough fields, clear land, or haul heavy loads, this machine handled it effortlessly. Additionally, it had a 12-gallon fuel tank and measured 8.3 feet long, 4.36 feet wide, and 4.19 feet tall. Oliver Equipment Company entered the crawler tractor market by acquiring Cleveland Tractor Company in 1944. Known for their reliable tractors in logging, construction, and farming, Cleveland Tractor Company, Cletrac, produced the successful Cletrac HD Crawler from 1939 to 1951. The Oliver OC3, manufactured from 1951 to 57, continued using the same 22 horsepower 4-cylinder Hercules engine as the Cletrac HG. In 1955, the tractor's design was updated to the flat-nose style of the Oliver 55 farm tractor. The Oliver Cletrac OC3 was a versatile utility crawler for construction or farming, offering options like a PTO shaft, belt pulley, various loader buckets, dozer blades, and a V-type snowplow. Additional features included 4 track widths, multiple track treads, cabs, and electric lights. The standard OC3 Industrial, with a 42-inch track width, came with an electric starter, though lights were an optional add-on. Moving on to another old sensation, 1969 Caterpillar 977K track loader. Historically, its predecessor, the Cat 977, was introduced around 1955 to 56, and it quickly gained a reputation for being powerful and reliable for medium to large-scale earth-moving projects. Interestingly, this machine has a pusher blade instead of the usual loading bucket. The 977K model was launched in the USA in 1966, followed by production in Japan a year later, and in Scotland soon after for the UK and European markets. The 977K featured a more powerful Cat D33 turbocharged 6-cylinder engine with 170 horsepower. Standard machine functions like an electric start and pedal steer system help operators easily maneuver the 977 in tight spaces. The walk-through operator's compartment is also a special feature of the 46H unit and lets the person driving it have unrestricted access to the controls. Interestingly, in 1971, Caterpillar replaced the 977K with the 977L. The new model had more horsepower, a rollover protection system, and much more. Enthusiasts favoured the 977K for its classic design, dependability, and versatility. With over 22,000 units produced, it played a pivotal role in shaping the modern construction industry. Like many vintage machines, the 977K contributed to countless infrastructure projects worldwide. The 977K track loader excelled with its robust engine, advanced transmission, and user-friendly features. Some fortunate owners still operate these machines, and the sound they make when starting or running is a testament to their persisting performance, even after 50 years. Next on is a really old but interesting machine. In the 1920s, the pull grader, towed by a crawler tractor, was widely used for maintaining country roads. The Caterpillar 66 pull grader was the company's largest model then, requiring 2 operators, one for the tractor and one for the grader. The combined length of the tractor and grader made tight turns and maneuvers challenging. Smaller gas tractors had grader blade attachments that were more maneuverable but still needed 2 operators. Surprisingly, these old machines might still outperform some modern equipment even after a century. Pulled by a crawler tractor, this grader was Caterpillar's largest model at the time and played a crucial role in maintaining country roads across the US. Unlike today's motor graders, the 66 required 2 operators to work efficiently. Though its power source might seem simple and inefficient, the 66 handled grading tasks effortlessly. One standout feature was its 12-foot wide blade with a smooth bolt-on cutting edge, making it easier to cover large areas and ensure smooth, even road surfaces for both vehicles and pedestrians. The first model of the 66, identified by the 6CSN prefix, was available with hand control and power control options and featured double frame rails. The second version, still called the 66 but known as the single frame model, featured a single frame rail. This model, bearing the 5E prefix, was also available with hand or power controls and offered both steel and rubber tire options. In the early 1930s, Caterpillar launched the Auto Patrol motor grader, requiring just one operator. The first diesel-powered motor graders from Caterpillar came out between 1938 and 39. The Caterpillar 212 Auto Patrol motor grader represents the smallest of the three models Caterpillar offered at the time. Now let's move on to the tractor from the early 20th century. In the early 1910s, car manufacturer Roland White saw a chance to enter the booming tractor market. But White aimed to do more than just produce another tractor. After experimenting with a wheeled model, he realized that Midwestern farmers needed a crawler tractor, one that was powerful yet light, advanced yet affordable. He met these criteria and more with the launch of the first Cleveland Tractor Company crawler in 1916. The initial Model R was quickly followed by the Model W1220 in 1918, a game-changer that established Cleveland Motors and its Cletrac tractors as major players in the crawler market. This move was so impactful that it pushed crawler giant Holt to enhance his lineup with models like the Caterpillar 10. One of the main attractions of the Model W was its price, selling for $1,385. In comparison, the Fordson tractor, which brought horsepower to many farmers, sold for $785 when introduced in 1918. Another great feature of the W1220 was its minimal soil compaction, which significantly reduced the impact on crop yields. Additionally, crop cultivation became vastly more efficient, up to 100 times more, when the Model F was introduced. However, the Fordson was crude, while the Model W was advanced. The Cletrac crawler, including the Model W, was considered highly advanced for its time. Moreover, it featured a controlled differential steering mechanism and a planetary gear system, allowing power to both tracks, even during turns. This design made the Model W efficient and reduced soil damage, known as berming. Cleveland called this the True Traction System, which became a standard for future Cletrac crawlers. Next up is the story of the pioneering effort. In 1892, in a village in northeast Iowa, John Frelich made a historic breakthrough in agriculture. He created the first successful gasoline-powered engine that could move forward and backward, what we now call a tractor. Before this innovation, farming was labor-intensive and relied on bulky, steam-powered engines prone to causing forest fires due to their cumbersome nature. Frelich saw the need for a better solution. Frelich's invention, the Frelich tractor, had a simple name but a revolutionary design. It featured a one-cylinder engine mounted on the running gear of a steam engine, merging two power sources into one more manageable unit. Although its specs might seem modest today, this machine was far easier to control than the hazardous steam engines of the past and marked a significant improvement. Think of the Frelich tractor as the pioneer of modern tractors. When Frelich took his invention to South Dakota for a test, he succeeded impressively, threshing around 72,000 bushels of small grain. This achievement hinted at a new era in farming. Despite its potential, selling the tractor was tough. After the Waterloo Gasoline Traction Engine Company approved it, only 2 units were sold. It wasn't until 1913 that the company launched the LA model of the Frelich tractor, following years of development. The world initially wasn't ready for this tractor's complexity. However, a year later they struck gold with the Waterloo Boy Tractor N. This machine weighed 6,000 pounds, was 5.97 feet wide and 5.24 feet tall. It featured a 7.6-litre 2-cylinder kerosene engine from the Waterloo Gasoline Engine Company, a 20-gallon fuel tank, an unsynchronized gear transmission, and a 4-start crank. This model represented the future of farming in the early 20th century. Going directly to the next machine, 295 Pay Scraper was manufactured as the consequence of technical advancements in the early 1960s and groundbreaking arrival. This new model not only replaced older versions like the 2T75, but also revolutionized the industry with its superior design and powerful performance. Featuring the brand new IH model DT817T engine, International Harvester unveiled this impressive machine in 1962. This 6-cylinder turbocharged diesel engine redefined construction equipment, delivering an impressive 375 horsepower and equipped with an Allison 4-speed power shift transmission. Interestingly, the top speed was 26 miles per hour, which was astounding at the time. The 295 had a fixed kingpin connecting the tractor and scraper sections, enhanced with a ring gear at its base. 2 hydraulic steering cylinders with teeth cut into their extensions enabled the machine to turn 90 degrees left or right. As with any innovative machinery, the initial model faced some challenges. Steering issues were common, leading to the introduction of the revised 295B model. This version featured a bowl similar to the 495, but the 295 was fully cable controlled. The 295B could handle 24 cubic yards struck and 31 cubic yards heaped with ease. However, International Harvester aimed higher. They redesigned the cable control system, creating 2 distinct bowl assemblies and increasing the heap capacity to 34 cubic yards. The 295B also came with more horsepower thanks to the aftercooling provided by the DT817 engine and came with either a 6-speed Allison or an 11-speed twin-disc power shift transmission. The wear and tear issues of the original model were addressed with a complete overhaul inspired by Euclid's follow-up system. Pushing the envelope even further, International introduced the E295 with a 32 cubic yard capacity. Unfortunately, this model's production lasted only 3.5 years. The 295 series faced stiff competition from heavyweights like the Caterpillar 631 and Euclid S24. The 295B remained in production, working hard until the 95 series was discontinued in 1974. Now let's move on to the last machine, which is literally amazing and old. The Caterpillar 2-ton was one of the original models in Caterpillar's lineup when the company was established in 1925. It joined the ranks alongside the 30 and 60 from the Best line and the 5-ton and 10-ton from the Holt line. Originating from the Holt stable, the 2-ton was essentially the same as the Holt T35, which was introduced in 1921, with serial numbers 25003 to 26313 manufactured in California, and serial numbers 70001 and onward produced in Peoria. In many ways, the 2-ton was ahead of its time. It featured an overhead camshaft engine and oil-cooled steering. It was also the last tractor to have track shoes integrally cast with the rails, a unique design element. Interestingly, its gearbox was located behind the crown wheel at the rear of the machine, rather than between the flywheel clutch and the crown wheel. The Caterpillar 2-ton had an early Holt T35 radiator. Unlike the Caterpillar 2-ton, which had cast track frames, the Holt T35 used riveted track frames. Weighing in at over 5,000 pounds, the Holt 2-ton tractor might seem hefty by today's standards, but back in 1921 it was considered quite small. As California's agricultural landscape evolved to include more specialized crops, the demand for smaller, cost-effective farm equipment grew. Before the Holt 2-ton tractor came along, managing smaller farms, orchard and vineyards was challenging with larger tractors that couldn't easily navigate under tree branches or between vineyard rows. The Holt 2-ton tractor had a compact size, low fuel consumption, minimal ground pressure, and economical operating costs. Despite these smaller dimensions, it was lauded for its strong traction, durability, and efficiency in getting work done. This design proved to be extremely popular and remained in production until 1925. After the Caterpillar Tractor Company was founded, they refined the Holt 2-ton design and continued manufacturing similar tractors, rebranded as the Caterpillar 2-ton until 1928. Eventually, the smaller and more modern Caterpillar 20 succeeded this influential tractor, cementing its legacy in agricultural history. And here we end today's video. Share your thoughts about these old machines in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe for more interesting and crazy insights on magical machines, and see you in the next video.